What's up and welcome to the channel. This is Tyler Tote. So I'm a curious human being, and if I'm honest, 99% of my interactions online are always positive. I'm the guy known as being the most positive guy on Twitter. This is what I get called a lot, kind of go into a negative place and be really positive. Even people that are come at me and are very negative and mean to me, I usually just leave a response like, "Hey man, it'd be weird if all humans thought the same or we thought alike. So you're entitled to your views. I wish you the best. Have a great day." I don't really push back and challenge people. I'm not a guy that wants to even say, well, this is my faith. It has to be this way. I'm kind of that guy that'll meet you where you are. And so as a curious human, it's always kind of troubled me or bothered me or perplexed me a little bit is probably the right word as to why I've been mailed 4 hate letters. And why, I woke up a couple days ago too to just a DM of 13, 14 DMs, just a rant of you're a this, you're a that, you're a this, you're a that. And I thought, man, what strikes the kind of emotion in someone to just see a dad who's kind of living life on his terms and encouraging you to do the same and live intentionally. And I can understand if I'm political or I'm dividing or coming in and saying you have to do it this way, but I generally just share my life. Hey, this is what works for me. This is what doesn't. I tried it this way and this doesn't, so I pivoted here. And then just encouraging you to find your own path and work for what's best. So I've always wondered that, and I had a conversation with a good buddy, and it hit me the other day. And I think there's some takeaways we can take from it. So let's dive in. So I was talking to my buddy the other day, a really good friend, and we were talking about this topic because he's a really high energy, positive kind of guy, does similar to what I do. He said, it's really weird when I come to your page and I see people hating on you. And he said, well, I think the same thing when I see you, man. Again, not trying to be divisive at all, just trying to encourage people to live their best life. And I shared with him at that point, yeah, man, I've been mailed 4 hate letters. And he's like, get out of here. And we kind of started joking about it. And we had a conversation that I think can really benefit a lot of people. And so that's, well, what does lead somebody then to have this strong, passionate feeling, emotion to take the time to write and mail a hate letter or to take the time and go to the DMs and tell you all the things they hate about you? And the more we talked about it and the more I thought about it after and journaled a little bit, here's what I came up with. I think there's a certain section of the population who plays exactly by the rules. And what I mean by that is, the system tells you and the rules tell you work your butt off from the time you're in first grade, study hard, get straight A's, be at the top of your class, pay a lot of money, go to college, maybe go to grad school, work your way up the corporate ladder, do all these things. And I think a lot of people, they play by those rules and they stay confined by that. And so they play by the rules of the game. And then they wake up middle aged and they say, I'm $500,000 in debt now. This degree that I got isn't really doing me a whole lot, and I paid a whole lot of money for it. And they told me along the way, well, you deserve it when you graduate, so buy that new car and pay $800 a month for it for the next 8 years or whatever. And they told you that you need to spend, what is it, some ridiculous amount, 3 months salary on an engagement ring. And so I did that, and you could follow down the road, right? Buy the big house, whatever that is. And now they got the golden handcuffs on, and I think a lot of people wake up middle aged and they say this isn't fair. And then they see a guy like me or a guy like my buddy, or you could fill in the blank, right? This is what Joe Rogan, I believe, gets a lot of hate. Well, dude, he's just some like kind of jock. Why does he get to make $100 million talking to his friends? That's not fair. And you'll see people say that. And I really believe it's because they have played by this segment of the rules and they followed all the rules. And now, quite frankly, they're angry about it and saying, why am I now still working 49 out of the 52 weeks a year? Why do I see this guy that gets to be off and only work 2, 3 hours a day? When I followed the rules, he didn't. He dropped out of school when he was 19 to play poker. This guy quit a safe corporate job when he could have been moving up the ladder, which is what they taught us to do, again, staying inside that box. And now he's doing, who knows what he's doing, right? I still don't even know how to describe my job, to be honest. I think if you can zoom out, which I've really tried to do, I think first off, it allows me to have a little more empathy for people that might really hate what you're doing or hate this or that. They don't really hate you. What they hate is their situation and they feel stuck. And I was there, to be really honest. I remember, and this is a little vulnerable, but coming home and crying to my wife and being like, I can't do this. I can't manage this bank and do this until I'm 65 years old. I can't. I will die of stress. Like, I don't accept to live life like this. I've got to do something outside the box. I cannot do this. And I think a lot of people they get stuck in these jobs and climb the ladder, and that'll make you happy, and that'll make you happy, and buy this thing, that'll make you happy. And they never zoom out and unlearn that a lot of the rules of the game are made to be broken. Nothing highlights this for me more than COVID a few years ago. I'll never forget taking my 5 and 6 year old daughter to the playground during COVID, and they had it roped off. Literally said you can't play on the playground. And we pulled up and I walked up and I remember my daughter's kind of a rule follower. She don't get that from me. She gets that from mom. But I remember her saying, "Oh, daddy, we can't play here." And I ripped down the tape and I said, "Hey, you ripped down that side." I said, "These rules don't apply to us." And I got to have some conversations with her that, a lot of rules are more suggestions. You have to find your own path. Now, I'm not saying, man, that means you can just go out and break the law and do all these things, right? You have to be intelligent about these things. You have to be smart. But I do think that a lot of people just continue to play by the rules that society gives them, or maybe the expectations their parents set for them, or whatever that is. I remember driving home and my mom crying. You can't drop out of college to play poker. Now, if I zoom back and say that, a couple decades ago, she had a lot of wisdom. And I probably could have saved a lot of heartache if I had listened to some of her advice when I was 20 years old about maybe I should have finished my degree while playing poker and not lived kind of the crazy life I did in my 20s. Probably would have been a lot happier. But, my point is you can't follow other people's dreams for yourself. And I feel like a lot of people do that. They stay constrained in this little box and they can't see outside of it and they follow all the rules and then they wake up middle aged and they say, "This is crap. I played by the rules and I'm still not happy. I'm still $500,000 in debt. I still now have to work another 30 years before I can even have hopefully a last good 11 or 12 to retire." Something doesn't add up. And so, I kind of understand a little bit more now after this conversation and thinking this is why somebody can look at somebody like a Joe Rogan or like, my buddy, or some people can have such an illicit emotion in a response to somebody who posts pictures of himself walking around shirtless and shoeless, not playing by the rules at 10 a.m., at 1 p.m. I get freedom over my time. And, I was there at 34, 35. I remember coming home again and crying and saying to my wife, "I can't do this. I got to figure something else out. We have to." And I hired a mentor and I paid a couple $1,000 up front and I studied and I tried to learn. I did everything possible. I didn't watch TV for over 5 years, right? I was working on other things. And so if you're out there and you're watching this, number one, and you're like, "Well, screw this guy." I don't care if you like me. To be quite honest, I think it's kind of weird that people show up and want to hate on you. Like I just tell people, if I'm not your cup of tea or whatever that is, just you don't have to watch me, man. I ain't holding the gun to your head. Just go watch other people and be inspired by other people. If that isn't me, no harm, no foul, man. That's cool. I wish you the best. But if you are one of those people who might look and have some of those feelings and some of those things, zoom out a little bit. And I would encourage you to take the first step and do exactly what I did at 34 years old. Say, "You know what? I don't want to keep playing by the rules. I saw where my life was going to go. You work really hard for 8 more years in this job, and then maybe you get a bump up in a bigger branch or a bigger promotion or what that looks like. And you work really hard and you upgrade your lifestyle." Then I saw the path that 90% of people, 95% of people go on and just said that that's not for me. Here's the box. I'm climbing out of the box and I'm going to find a different path that truly I feel like is my purpose and makes me happy. And step one to this, and I've talked about it previously on the channel, get out a notebook. I remember writing down, this is what I want my life to look like. I call it the perfect day. I'll link the video below too. I outline my framework for it. I run clients through this all the time. Hey, if I just, a magic genie gave me $10 million in the bank, what would I do all day? What would I work on? What is the structure of my day? What time would I wake up? What are the things I'd be doing? Who would I be working with? My wife and I outlined this together about 4.5 years ago now. We wrote down, this is what we would ideally like our life to look like. And then we woke up every single day with that vision in mind. We'd like to take a walk together every single morning. I'd like to work out. I'd like to have nobody tell me I got to wear a shirt and tie. This is dressed up. I actually dressed up to be on this YouTube video by putting a tank top on, right? I like that. That was happiness to me. It's probably not the same for you, but a really magical thing happened when my wife and I did this. We looked at each other and we said, dude, we don't really need much money to be happy. The things that we are plugging into our perfect day and our perfect week and what we want our life to look like, dude, it doesn't really matter to us, the stuff and the cars and anything fancy. So we can start to trim that lifestyle down and really get outside the box and create any life we want. And, my wife, I give her all the credit to this because I felt stuck. I felt like, man, I have no hope. I'm just stuck to do this. And I'll never forget, she told me, Ty, you are never stuck. If you don't like where you're at, we can work to get you out of it. And we did together. And so I would urge anybody out there, if you've ever had these thoughts, I had them. I remember being 32, 33, 34, and I remember even looking at guys that I really liked. I mean, my brother-in-law is a great example. He's a business owner, super successful, owns a ton of rental properties, just a great dude. But I remember thinking it's not fair. Like I'm here working every day. He gets to play pickleball and work out and play with his buddies. What I didn't know is that, at the time, I think he worked like something like 550 days in a row, including Christmas, including everything, 14-hour days to launch his business off the ground and get to where he wanted to go in his 20s. He put that work in that groundwork. He invested in assets. He did all the right things. So he gets to reap the rewards, right? He didn't just go in a straight line and stay in that box. He actually graduated college. And I think he told me he worked 2 or 3 weeks at a financial firm and walked out and said, I'm willing to put in the work and get outside the box and create the life I want to. So, I understand some of those feelings of maybe this isn't fair, this or that, but I would urge you to just zoom back. Life is a choose your own adventure game. And, the first step is gaining a clear vision of what you want your life to look like. I'd urge you to take those steps and get it on paper. Otherwise, it's just a daydream. And then know that it's possible. It took me and my wife, to be honest, many years, several years of sacrificing, living below our means, all these things. But man, I have the next however long God gives me on this earth, and I get to choose the way I spend it. I don't have to sit in meetings. I don't have to drive to any work. I don't have a boss ask that I need to ask if I can get vacation. I get to choose and use my most valuable resource, which is time, something that's all limited, any way that I want. And to me, that's wealth. That's what it looks like. But maybe your definition is different. Maybe you need to get the term set for you. I'd urge you to do that today. And if you are a creator out there, somebody that's watching this, I think a secondary takeaway is, when people come and hate on you, it has nothing to do with you. That is what I've learned from sharing 4.5 years on social media. Somebody is going to make fun of my haircut on this video. Somebody's going to make fun of, I don't know, whatever it is. It ain't got nothing to do with me. And if you let that stuff bother you and you don't just let it roll off and say, dude, you know what, I still wish them well and hope they have a great life. But you have to acknowledge that, man, if you put yourself out there, some people are going to choose to be angry and not like what you put out there, even if it's positive, even if it's not divisive, just simply because they're projecting some of the things that they have. So that was a really big takeaway for me, and I hope for somebody else out there that's a creator as well. I think the third thing that I would say, the lesson from this, is just to get outside the box. And, I teach my kids this a lot. There's more than one path to victory, and you got to find your thing. I genuinely believe that the Lord created each one of us individual and unique to do something different. All of us have that thing inside of us, man, that we would do for free. If I'm really honest, within the next year, I'm going to be work optional. Passive income will cover our life, and I don't really need to work anymore. I'll work. I love what I do, man. I get to coach people. I get to see big change. I love it. I feel like I was created for this. Find that thing for yourself. There are ways to monetize it. You can, but you got to get outside the box sometimes. And you can't follow the path that mom and dad want, that boss want, that colleagues want, that whatever that is. You also can't be foolish. I didn't think that I had this thing and then all of a sudden go to my wife and say, I'm quitting. Dude, I worked 3 or 4 years to build up to get to a point where I had enough money coming in that I could say, hey, I'm going to bet on myself and go for this. I remember telling my wife at the time, I'm giving myself 18 months. We had an 18-month runway of money in the bank. And if it didn't work, I would happily go back and manage the bank again for a while or do whatever I had to do to provide for our family. So I'm not saying be unwise in this, but I am saying, man, just because you've always been in this box doesn't mean you can't hop out of it and go a different route. You're never stuck. So I hope this resonates with somebody. Just a few of the thoughts off the top of my head before I dig back into my writing my book here. Hope you guys have the greatest day of your life. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to others. Hop outside that box and write your own story. Ain't nobody getting to the end of their journey. And guys, we're only here once. You can't always play it safe. You got to take some calculated risks. That's what makes life fun to me. Again, if you're going to bet on anything, bet on yourself. Much love, guys. Go have the best day.